I was standing in my office after the promotion. Night, the city in the window, a nameplate that said Bruce, an expensive watch on my wrist. The phone was silent, but inside I felt empty, like an elevator with no buttons. Still, I smiled, because that's what you're supposed to do. My name is Bruce. I'm 77. And here's the truth. For years, I built success so I wouldn't have to feel fear. I wasn't living, I was proving. I'm not asking you to quit your job. I am not asking you to blow up your life. But if you're listening right now, there's already a question inside you. When does the real part begin? The truth is, no one announces it. No one knocks, no one warns you. You either notice it now or you notice it later. When you start paying with time, with health, with the people you love. I built proof, but I lost presence. I wasn't chasing money, not a house, not a title. I was chasing the feeling of I'm enough, the right to be respected, the right not to be invisible. My father used to come home from the factory, the smell of metal, sweat, that heavy fatigue in his shoulders. He'd sit in the kitchen and eat in silence, but it was like he wasn't even there. The world moved right past him. I watched him and thought, that won't be me. I told myself, I'll become someone you can't ignore. Or I might as well not exist. Back then I called it ambition, but it was fear. Fear of being ordinary, fear of being unimportant. And fear knows how to disguise itself as a goal. It whispers, one more push, one more step, one more year. I worked 60 hours a week, then 70, then I stopped counting. I stopped counting dinners, I stopped counting conversations, I stopped counting 5 minutes before sleep. But I started counting something else, how many times I chose work so I wouldn't have to feel, how many times I hid anxiety behind being busy. I wasn't living, I was proving. At 52, I became a vice president. The office, the view, the nameplate. People stood up when I walked in. You know that moment, when everyone congratulates you, and inside, you're waiting for it to finally feel easier. It didn't. It got quieter, colder, and I told myself, then I need to go further. I stayed alone in the office, took off my jacket, loosened my tie, sat down, opened my laptop just so I wouldn't have to sit in silence. Then I closed it, stood up, sat again. I looked at the nameplate with my name on it, and I felt like a stranger inside my own victory. But I couldn't admit it, because if I admitted it, I'd have to face the fact that I'd been running in the wrong direction. I thought I needed higher, more, faster, but the problem was deeper. I wasn't looking for success. I was looking for confirmation that I had the right to be here. But confirmation never satisfies. It works like sugar, a quick high, then a crash, then hunger again, then more. The most absurd part, I could have given myself that at 25, but instead I decided to earn it for 50 years. I tried to buy self-worth with work, but worth isn't something you buy. You accept it or you don't. And if you don't, you pay for it your whole life. I promised I'd be at my son's concert. I had the ticket in my pocket. I told myself, I'll make it. But a meeting started, just 15 minutes, then a little longer, then a call, then, this is important. I got home late. His shoes were in the hallway. The concert program was on the table. I picked it up. The paper sounded louder than my conscience. My son was already asleep. And in that moment, I understood something. Money doesn't bring presents back. My wife said, I don't need the money, I need you. She said it quietly, without blame. But quiet sentences are more dangerous than loud ones because you can't dismiss them as emotion. I nodded. I said, after the quarter, after the project, after this year. But after is the word that makes you absent even when you're sitting right there. I built proof, but I lost presence. At some point I saw men my age. Some were still competing, others were already living. The difference wasn't money, it wasn't health. It was one thing. Did you stop proving, or are you still doing it? Because proving becomes a habit, then a personality, then an identity. Here's a trap no one talks about. You think you're building a career, but you're actually building armor. Armor against the feeling of I'm not enough. Every new success becomes another layer. But the thicker the armor gets, the less of you anyone can see inside. You become reliable, strong, right, but alive. Less and less. I stopped asking myself, what do I want? I started asking, what do I need to do so I don't fall? When you live from desire, you grow. But when you live from fear, you run. And you can run for so long, you forget what you were running from. Then you're running on inertia, calling it discipline. At 60, I felt a kind of exhaustion, no vacation fixes, not physical exhaustion, role exhaustion, the role of I've got it under control, the role of I can handle it. But inside, I couldn't. I just didn't allow myself to say it, because if I said it, the image would crack, and I was living for the image. The scariest thing about a role, people start believing it. They get used to the facade, then they start depending on it. You become the rock, but a rock can be hollow too, and you don't allow yourself a crack, because a crack would reveal there's a living human inside. I sat in my car, outside the house, engine off, hands on the wheel, lights in the windows. I didn't want to go in, not because I didn't love my family, but because I didn't know who to be without the title. At work, I was important. At home, I was just a man, and being just a man is harder. You can't hide behind status. At home, they see straight through you. The turning point came quietly. My son asked, "Dad, are you ever just satisfied?" It was a simple question, but I froze. I wanted to answer in a smart way, a grown-up way, but I couldn't, because I didn't know what just meant. I only knew achieved or not achieved. I wasn't living, I was proving. In that moment, I saw myself from the outside, a man who could manage people, but couldn't be calm. A man respected in the office, but unknown at home. I built proof, but I lost presence. And the worst part is, I called it normal. I realized I was living in the future, when things are more stable, when I save enough, when I feel confident. But confidence doesn't come from a number in your bank account. It comes from acceptance, or it doesn't come at all. And then you're stuck in almost forever. You almost live, you almost love, you're almost present. The biggest illusion of success is that it'll seal the hole inside you. But that hole isn't financial, it's existential. You can fill it with work, with noise, with wins, but it only closes when you stop fighting a war against yourself. I thought I just needed to work less. But it wasn't about the hours, it was that I didn't know who I was without results. Take away the title, who's left? Take away the status, what's left? That question is scarier than any crisis. A crisis is outside you. This one is inside you. Be honest. Are you building a life, or are you building an alibi? An alibi for why you're not living. I'm busy. I have to. It's not the right time. But time doesn't ask. It leaves, and it doesn't just take years. It takes your ability to feel them. We men rarely talk about this. We're taught to be the support, but we aren't taught to be alive. We're praised for strength, but we aren't taught to admit fear. We're valued for reliability, but almost nobody asks, are you at peace? Or, are you even here? I caught myself thinking, if everything collapsed tomorrow, people would pity me for losing my career, but nobody would know I'd already lost myself a long time ago. That realization hit harder than any failure, because it isn't the job that collapses, it's the illusion that you're in control of your life. At 65, I went to a therapist, not because I broke, but because I was tired of holding the line. Even with the people closest to me, even with my wife, I answered with facts, not feelings. I brought plans, but I didn't bring myself. The hardest conversation wasn't in that office, it was at home. I said, I don't know how to be happy without a goal. The room went quiet because nobody expected to hear that from me. But the scarier part was this: I didn't expect it to be true either. A turning point isn't pretty, it's awkward. You learn to speak more slowly, you learn to listen, you learn to stop explaining yourself, you learn not to be right every minute, and that's where choice finally appears. Not reaction, not role, choice. I started canceling meetings where I was needed, but not alive. I stopped saying yes to projects that fed my ego but drained my energy. The world applauds ambition. It doesn't applaud awareness. But awareness brings you back to yourself. The greatest freedom isn't financial independence. The greatest freedom is being able to say, this is enough, without panic that you'll lose respect, or status, or importance. Because importance is a drug. But life isn't a dosage. When I was 72, my friend died, a heart attack. He was successful, always busy. At the funeral, they talked about projects, numbers, wins. But I stood there thinking, I don't know if he was happy. And worse than that, after the funeral, I got in my car, opened my email, and started replying right there in the cemetery parking lot, automatically, so I wouldn't feel. And that's when it hit me. Even death didn't switch my role off. That day, I got truly scared, not of death, but of being unfinished. Imagine it ends, and you still never understood who you are without the role, without the function, without the task. That's more frightening than any diagnosis, because it isn't about your heart. It's about emptiness. I came home, sat in the dark, didn't turn on the TV, didn't pick up my phone. I just sat there. And for the first time, I didn't try to distract myself. The silence was louder than my thoughts, because you can't hide in silence, but you can hear yourself there if you don't run. I asked myself, if you remove the word should, what's left? Not I should provide, not I should measure up, not I should be strong. Just, what do I want? The answer didn't come, but it was an honest zero. And an honest zero is better than a pretty lie, because an honest zero is a beginning. We get used to living in have-to mode. It feels safe, it feels clear. But have to is a cage with no bars. You can leave, but you're afraid you'll lose respect, or you're afraid of the emptiness. But emptiness isn't the end. Emptiness is the space where you finally hear who you are without excuses. I'm 77. I can't bring back the evenings I missed. I can't buy presents back, but I can name the truth. I wasn't living, I was proving, and you can stop before life stops you. Write in the comments, what are you proving, or who are you proving it to? One word, one name, one fear. Like this if it hit you. Subscribe if you want more, because time moves. Or you move with it.